Okay. Hi, Mahima. How are you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, good. Thank you for joining today. And we're going to be talking about a little bit about your background. And, a lot of med students probably can get inspiration and future med students from what you've done. So just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for having me. My name is Mahima. I'm a third year medical student at the Carle, Illinois College of Medicine, which is associated with the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. So we're kind of in a more rural area of Illinois, about hours or so outside of Chicago. Uh,
Gotcha. Okay, okay, near Chicago.
yeah.
Wow. Okay. You probably go to Chicago a lot then.
I try. I try.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about your curriculum you were telling me earlier.
Yeah, so our college is somewhat more new. It's a few years old, and we're trying to do something new in the space of medicine itself and in the space of medical education. So we're an engineering-based medical school. So a lot of the students here have some form of an engineering background. It's not required, but a lot of us do. Multiple of us have worked in industry for a few years. We've done either bioengineering or some other forms of engineering. Some of us have PhD degrees, master's degrees, things like that. And all of us share a desire to make a difference in the field of medicine, in the field of healthcare through innovation of some form. It doesn't have to be in the form of a company or a product, but all of us just feel that working at the intersection of engineering and healthcare is kind of really where the future is at.
Mhm.
So our curriculum is also pretty novel in the sense that we have all the medical school requirements. So we have the first 2 years, which are preclinical, and after that we do our clinical rotations after taking step one usually. And then in our fourth year, we have an additional graduation requirement of doing a data science or capstone project. And a lot of students choose to do both and incorporate different aspects of engineering in that. And then as part of every clerkship rotation, we have an engineering component based into that or an innovation component based into that, where we come up with an innovative solution that we think would be helpful in that particular field that we're studying at the time.
Wow, wow, that's a lot of stuff. How did you even get into this? How did you know about this program? What led you to this?
Yeah, I'm lucky because I actually went to undergrad at UIUC. So I was here when they were actually thinking about or starting to construct out the medical school itself. There was
Mhm.
a lot of buzz, a lot of hype around it, and everyone in the community was really excited. But also, I think me being from the Silicon Valley or the Bay Area, I think there's a lot of buzz around healthcare technology, AI and healthcare, all of these things. I think we're kind of at the step of that revolution.
Mhm.
Um, and so Carl, Illinois was kind of one of the big names that was popping up in the space of med school whenever I would search it online.
Wow, okay, okay. And did you have any background in undergrad doing anything like engineering or any innovative stuff?
Yeah, so I did molecular biology. I did chemistry and neuroscience when I was an undergrad, and then I did go and get my master's degree back home at UCSF in bioengineering. So I had
Mm.
a little bit of like a bioimaging and radiology background. I worked for a few years, 2 to 3 years in cancer clinical trials,
Wow.
mostly looking at like early detection through imaging and radiology as well. So I had a little bit of that bioengineering from imaging perspective background before I started med school.
Wow, okay, that's pretty cool.
Thank
So
you.
how have you been able to balance? I'm assuming you're working on projects currently during med school, right?
It's hard. It's it's hard, which
Uh,
I'm sure you can relate to.
yeah,
Um, it's really hard to balance out everything, but I will say I think med school in general, I think it's supposed to be hard. I think it's
yeah.
not supposed to be easy.
Mhm.
It's supposed to be difficult, but at the end of the day, I think what's really kind of worked for me and really helped for me has been finding a good team of personal friends who kind of keep me balanced,
Uh,
make sure that I have a personal life apart from just working all the time. And then the other part is having like a great solid team in terms of work team, people who can help out on projects, make sure everybody is having balanced roles, all the tasks are delegated, and communication is strong and upfront. That always helps just make sure all the projects kind of get executed in a timely manner and everybody's just working on it together.
got it, got it. So basically, you're doing med school plus your projects all at the same time.
We're trying. We're trying.
Okay. Do you guys get any free time? Do you guys get time to yourselves?
I think I think all med students kind of have to carve out that time for myself. Like that's probably one of the biggest takeaways I've had from medical school is, on days, for example, when I'm not in the clerkship or I'm not on a hospital shift, I just kind of turn my phone off and just don't check emails. And that's really kind of worked for me and helped me maintain that work-life balance. So, like you said, I try to go up to Chicago. It doesn't happen that much, but we try.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. If you don't mind, let's dive into like what do you do on your off days? What helps you reset besides turning off the phone? Do you do anything specifically?
I have some hobbies that I've tried to maintain over the course of medical school. So I do some painting. That's been a really nice kind of de-stress method. And I've actually been able to turn some of those paintings and into something for the medical school, which has been nice. I ended up doing a painting that was displayed in the palliative care department at our hospital, but I didn't do it for that purpose. I just did it because it was fun. So
Wow.
maintaining something that's kind of like a long-term hobby has been really fruitful for me, but also I think it's just a good way to just de-stress and, step away from everything.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So that helps you de-stress. And you said when you guys are like helping each other do these busy things, all the projects, the work, do you have like a specific schedule you follow? Do you do anything specifically to stay organized? What do you do?
Microsoft Outlook calendar has been like my biggest friend, to be very honest with you. And it sounds embarrassing, it really does, but I even schedule in like times to like have dinner with my friends because
Okay.
that just helps me. Like inside of my calendar, I just put a little note in there and it just kind of helps me to remember that, okay, at this time, I'm gonna stop working. And so staying organized with like a really good calendar, that's been a lifesaver and a total game changer for me in med school.
Wow. Okay. So kind of staying like on track with this amount of time I'm gonna spend for this and this.
Yeah, yeah. And making sure you don't just keep that calendar like, just for your work or just for your projects or anything like that. Make it holistic, make sure it's personalized to you. I have like two, three different calendars. Like one I even have, well, I'm really outing myself here, but one I really have a calendar of like all my friends' birthdays because I tend to
Yeah.
forget
No, that makes
birthdays on
sense.
a busy day. But I keep them in my calendar just so that I don't forget.
Good, good. Okay. So staying organized that way just relieves the stress off of your mind to know what to do. Okay.
Yeah, and I
Um,
also think just like writing something down, it just helps you. It helps you remember, and it also just like helps take it out of your mind and like put it onto paper.
oh, 100%. Speaking of that, what's your hot take on like doing notes for like correcting U-road questions or something, or making like flashcards for on Anki? What?
Yeah, I am that person that needs to do it from scratch, otherwise I don't remember. So for me, Anki is a great tool, but I can't necessarily say it's been the thing that's really worked for me.
Yeah.
What's worked for me is having to either type it out myself, create my own Anki card from scratch, or just good old pen and paper. Those still do exist, and just like write it, write it.
Yeah, yeah.
That seems to be what works for me, and that also sticks. So I'm more of like a watch a video, take notes on it
Mm.
independently, and then sometimes occasionally do recall, but the recall is also stuff that I have made. And that way you can also personalize it. Like I feel like there's a whole ton of Anki decks, which I've gone through and I know those questions already, and those questions don't show up. So they're just kind of more like facts. So
Hmm.
for me, the Anki card that I would make would be a little more of like I'd say like a two hammer type of a question, something that I know that I struggle with that concept and I write it in a way that's targeted towards the content that I struggle with.
Got it, got it. So, okay, that's kind of what I do too. Just write down like my weak points and
Yeah,
try to make it as short as possible, but it while covering all the weak points for me.
right.
Um, so as you were going through med school, like taking these tests, did you have times where you like gave up on your other, your extracurriculars, your projects you're doing, or did you continuously always work on them in an organized way?
You know what? I would love to sit here and say that I always worked on it, life was great, but that is just so not true. And I think a lot of us can relate to that. There are some days where I'm just so tired from clerkship and I come back and I don't even do one. Anki card. I don't even do one UWorld question. So if anybody looks at my UWorld data, it's a true like up and down curve. Some days you feel productive, some days you don't. Um, and some days you're just so tired. I remember when I was on night shift in my internal medicine clerkship, that was a really rough schedule to adjust to for me because it was something I was not used to at all.
Mhm.
And so that straight up that whole week, I think I didn't end up doing at least what I had thought I was going to.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think what works for me is just giving myself that grace, not putting pressure on you have to do a little bit every single day. It's okay. I'm that person where I know that there's going to be 4 days where I don't do anything. And then when it comes to the weekend, I do like 100 questions or I do 100 of flashcards or whatever works for that individual student. It's
Mhm.
okay to say that I'm involved in a lot and it's okay if there are some days where I don't get everything done.
I think that's very important for med students to hear because so often we hear, oh, I didn't do this much. I'm falling behind. I don't know if I can pass or blah, blah, blah. I think it's very healthy to know that you can still have off days and still be okay. And hearing it
Definitely.
from someone like you who's got med school plus your own projects outside of that, that's, it's great for people to hear, I think. Um, just towards the end of this, wrapping this up, kind of tell us about what your future goals are because you're in such an innovative field, doing some inspiring stuff. What's your goals going forward?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I am looking to, so I'm a third year right now, so I'm really interested in pediatric oncology. And so I'm thinking about applying to pediatrics residencies next year. That would be kind of my goal, at least in the short term. And then long term, I am working on this like startup company, which is a medical device for patients who are undergoing chemotherapy to prevent them from a hair loss. And so our target patient base is both adults as well as pediatrics, but right now the focus so far has been on adults. So now our long-term goal for the company for that project is to build out like a pediatric version of the device as well, so that we kind of have a broader patient target base. So
Okay.
that's kind of short and long-term goals.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So are you the founder of the company or are you working with other
Yes,
people?
founder and CEO of the company. It was really a passion project. It was one of those, you just talk about something in a cafe, write it down on a napkin type of a stories. No one was really thinking this would become anything.
Uh,
Um, and then, with time and a whole bunch of luck and effort and a lot of great teamwork, we actually were able to get started on something.
wow. Okay. If you don't mind me asking, if I'm allowed to ask, like
Sure.
how is it progressing? How did you guys get like you had the idea, but how are you developing it out?
Right. And that's really what it is, where I feel like as a medical student, I have the idea, but I really can't take credit for a lot of the other bigger steps that were taken. We have a fantastic team of engineering collaborators. So I worked with two really big faculty members in the mechanical science and engineering division over at our university, and
Mhm.
they kind of helped lead the brains behind the technical engineering aspects of how to build out this device.
Sure.
And they're just so, it's been such a pleasure working with them. And then also just having a larger collaboration in terms of having the medical school collaborate really well with the university. I think any form of collaboration between industry, healthcare, engineering, computer science, all of these things together, that's really how you end up building something impactful. So I can't take credit for it. We have collaborators in the engineering department. We have some wonderful graduate students that are contributing to this. And of course, it's the patients. I think my biggest role was seeing what I saw in clinic, talking to doctors, talking to patients, learning what their experience was, because that's really the start of any innovation in healthcare, I would say.
Mhm.
Honestly, it's been my biggest learning point is, you might think something as a provider, but it really comes down to what is the patient feeling? What are their goals and priorities? And they change.
Yeah.
So because they change, we, as someone who's trying to build out a product for them, we have to change and we have to pivot. So that's also been my biggest learning point.
Okay. Okay. Wow. That's great to hear. I mean, you're the brains behind it. Like you started it, so you got to take still too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. That's really inspiring too, because a lot of people that are thinking about med school or in med school that have other passions think they're gonna get stuck in this field, they can't do other things. But you're proving it during med school. You can do many other passions that you have, and you can impact patients on like a world scale doing cool things
It's
while learning
true.
basic medicine.
It's so true. And I'm so happy that you said that because I hear this all the time, I think, from pre-med students or just anybody who's looking to go to med school. I think the first thing to remind yourself, A, is you do not have to be a doctor to make a difference in healthcare. I think a lot of people forget that. And
Mhm.
then if you so choose to go down that path, you do not have to be a traditional applicant.
Yeah.
You bring your journey, you bring your experience, and that is really what makes you you. And I
Hmm.
think that's the culture of my medical school is like most of our classes are flipped classroom based. And so we sit and have discussions in groups of students, and each of us brings such a unique perspective. A lot of us have been non-traditional applicants where we've worked or we've had degrees in different fields that aren't directly related to healthcare. That's made all the difference. And we
Hmm.
kind of bring those perspectives. Med schools, I think, really love that. And the field of healthcare in general, I think, is moving towards that,
Hmm.
where they want people from diverse areas to come together and build out the future of healthcare.
Yeah, and especially in this country where we need a lot of change, I think that's where the diversity is going to really help. People
Yeah,
from different mindsets, different backgrounds can really make a big difference.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for this. I think this was really inspiring for med students at pre-meds.
Oh, good.
And if you ever want to, leave a contact or anything for them to contact you, that's totally okay. And people would just be inspired to hear everything from you. Thank you for taking the time to do it.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I just want to say that honestly, my journey, there were so many times throughout this, even now,
Uh-huh.
where I have imposter syndrome and I feel like, what am I doing here? How did I even get here? What does the future hold? There were many times, like for example, when I started undergrad, I was actually a pre-law student, and that's what I thought I was going to do for quite some time.
Mhm.
And then, life happened. I didn't like it, a lot of different circumstances, and I pivoted. So it is totally okay to change. It is totally okay to do something that you weren't expecting you were going to do. And failure is actually, I think a lot of med students I've come across are afraid of failure, or
Mhm.
they're afraid of the consequences that come with failure.
Mhm.
But I think, A, all of us should be more transparent with the fact that we've all failed before, and it is okay. And that is it takes, I truly believe it takes a failure to even get to med school
It
um,
does.
because you've lived quite a bit of life at that time, at that point. And it's just, I think it's a bit impractical to think that nothing ever is going to go wrong. So failure is okay. I think it's
Mhm.
part of the journey. I have failed more times than I can even count. And I'm doing okay, and you will too. So, if I want to, if I really just want to kind of leave with something, it's
Yeah.
to say that to all med students. Failure is a part of the process. It's okay. You get up and you kind of work on it again and you
Yeah.
learn from that. And the learning is really what matters. And that's it.
That was very beautifully said. I mean, I think that summarizes everything in life for anyone that's failure. You got to embrace failure to learn anything. I personally had a lot of failures too, and it's great to hear, someone like you doing a lot of big things. You got to fail to get to that level.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it seems big, but it's really just
It's
you
stepping
taking one
stones,
mistake.
It takes,
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it.
yeah.
Awesome. And I'm happy to leave like an email or contact information if anybody has any questions or wants to reach out. Networking has been such a big part of my journey that I really would, encourage everyone to do that. Try to find mentors in the space you're interested in. It really can make a big difference. You never know.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for coming today.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye.